Simon Sutton. So during stewardship, we have what I call the stewardship spot, and Simon is first up just to share his perspective and thoughts about giving.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Simon Sutton, and I am today's designated Belgian draft horse. You may be... Thank you. You may be a little bit sick of hearing from me today, but I have to say I am very relaxed, because normally making a 10 o'clock service on Sunday is a bit of a rush. Let me explain why. During COVID, some rescuing activity, we have 4 dogs, 4 very energetic dogs. And when you have 4 dogs, you live with a dog pack, and you are part of that dog pack. Some days there are 20 legs in our bed, and that is too many legs. So to come to church on a Sunday at 10 o'clock, I have to make sure they're all tired. So there's some rigorous hiking activity where we go a couple of miles up and down hills, and I have to make it back in time to change and get to church. So the trouble is, I run hot, and so by 9:30 on a Sunday, I look like the guy from the movie Airplane. There is sweat pouring all over me. I'm standing in a cold shower, desperately trying to cool down. So when you see me at 10 o'clock on a Sunday, joining behind the procession, that is the reason why. I have not just got up, I'm just a little bit manic. So Channing has asked a number of us in the vestry to talk to you about our faith journey and why we think it's important to support All Saints. So let's do that. We're trying to do this a little quicker than we have in previous years. Now you may detect from a little hint of an accent that I was not born here. In fact, I was in a department store a couple of years ago, and the sales associate came up to me and said, "Your accent, you're not from here." And I said, "Yes, you're correct. I was born in England." And she looked at me and she went, No, that's not it." So I'm happy to tell you and swear to you today, that is it. I was born in Nottingham, England, a town that's really only known for Sherwood Forest and Robin Hood. And I should point out that this town is not London. People often come up to me and I say, "Oh yes, I emigrated 30 years ago, but I'm from England." And they go, "Oh, I love London." Which I feel is a little bit like if you said to somebody you're from Santa Barbara and they go, "Oh, I love Seattle." England, it is said, is Singapore surrounded by Ukraine, by which I mean a very rich city surrounded by a lot of not-so-rich people. In fact, if you look at the GDP per capita, the average measure of wealth of a country, that for the United Kingdom as a whole is less than that of the state of Mississippi, which is America's poorest state. So coming from the Ukraine bit of England, all my extended family left the country to better themselves. And my parents moved to the Middle East. Let's just leave that there. I was sent away to boarding school. And boarding school in a country that has a state religion is compulsory church 4 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Sunday was optional. And the Church of England, certainly the church I went to, looks very similar to this. Similar sort of architecture, hymns, sermon, similar liturgy. But it was bad. It was bad. You know when you go to a really bad birthday party and the cake comes out and people start singing, "Happy birthday"? It was like that. That's what the hymns were like. It was a dirge. There was no joy in it. The sermons were not relevant. They were generally theological discussions of things that had happened thousands of years ago. It felt dead to me. But having gone to church 4 times a week for many, many years, I thought on average, it evens out. I'm probably better than most people. So the moment I turned 19, I was out of there, and I never went back for 35 years until we moved here to Montecito. And I read in the newspaper about All Saints being rebuilt and what wonderful architecture it had. And came in, and the church is beautiful. I particularly love the stained glass windows. I love the one with the dog in the corner and the oranges and the olive trees. And the church is beautiful. But even more beautiful than the architecture and the surroundings is the church as a community. We all get together afterwards for coffee. We have made so many friends through this institution. The sermons are more beautiful than the architecture of this church. I think in the UK, the problem is the bishop appoints vicars, whereas here, the congregation goes through a profile committee, a discernment committee. We study people. We listen to their sermons. People's sermons have to be good, and they are good. Not a Sunday goes by where I don't learn something about history from Vicky. I appreciate Hank's wacky jokes. I'll still remember the guy in the gorilla suit in the zoo. And I actually think he has a lot of insight about business and the church. And of course, above all, Channing and his sermons, which really bring Bible teachings to relevance in our lives. Don. Don, my husband, who I appreciate, is looking after the dogs today, often listens to Channing's sermons multiple times on Sunday, which shows how meaningful it is. So even though this church is restored and gorgeous and enjoyable, the singing, well, opera singers, incredibly talented singers, is beautiful. The sermons are beautiful. The community is beautiful. Now, we don't charge to attend church, but it's not free. The state's not going to step in and save us. So we're asking you, the backbone of this church, to pledge, as we do every year. And, just to be a little bit cheeky, we're asking you to give a little more. You know, although inflation is low now, if you look back in August of 2020, prices are up in general 20%. We're asking you to look at your pledge and hopefully increase it by 20% this year, to add an additional rector, as Channing mentioned, and also the diocese has asked us to contribute more to the LA Diocese. They have figured out that we exist now, and apparently it's between us, Beverly Hills, and Pasadena. So that the money is flying out of the door. So please, if you can, give a little more this year. You know, the top ticket to Disneyland only a few years ago was $150. Today it's $220. That's a 35% increase. I certainly think Channing's more valuable than Tinkerbell. So I ask you to join me in giving, because I know what a dead church is like. This church is alive, and let's keep it that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You should have all received a mailing this week. If